All right. So we've got the document up on Google Drive. I'll paste the link into the channel chat just so that we've got that ready to go. And we got some stuff written down in there. Discussion points to go over issues, PRs, and goals for the new year. And we wrote some stuff down. Starting with the issues, put some links in there. There's a couple that can be resolved and some more that need to be reviewed. Like for instance, the Open API schema validation. I think that one needs to be implemented most likely. From Wilson. Wilson's here as well. Are you here?
I am here.
You want to tell us about that one?
I sure.
I mean,
Let
it
me
is pretty
just
straightforward, but also.
yeah. I think I was just out of curiosity trying to see what kind of validation was happening on the Open API schemas and digging around. It looked like there used to be some tooling in the repo that might not be anymore. Um, so yeah, I was mainly just asking and confirming that that's something that's might be worth re-adding.
Okay, that sounds good to me. So I think there is some stuff in there, but we can improve it. But okay, those are the only issues we wrote down, but there's 24 issues in total that are open, and we definitely need to uh, get better at getting rid of them, I think. Resolving.
Oh, it seems like for the schema um oh, I'm looking at the build error. It seems like there's a PR that kind of ad went and addressed some of the build error. Um, d does Wilson does the two PRs, I believe there were two, address your issue, or how are there more additional issues that needs to resolve for this?
I think for the S JavaScript SDK builder, I opened a pull request that would fix it, and I think you're correct. There's a second, that most recent pull request in the agent protocol repo is also addressing that same issue.
Awesome. So essentially, oh, it's addressing is it addressing different parts of the same issue, or is it addressing exactly the same issue?
I think it's exactly the same. Um, yeah, I think they would both fix it fine. My
Ah,
pull
I see.
request, I also added some stuff to GitHub Actions to check and kind of prevent or catch much earlier on an issue like this getting merged.
Yeah. It seems like there is in our checks there is some like build error because the CI has is like half red and half green. Um, so maybe if you can take a look after that after this call, I will stay online and help as well. Um, cool. Thanks for joining our session. This is your first time, I'm guessing?
I made it to the very highly attended one from last week.
Oh, oh, got it, got it. Um, yeah, and Happy New Year, everyone. This is our first official meeting after the New Year's. So, want to start by saying that. Um, okay, so Zane, mind continuing?
Sure. Um, we do have the 1B there for the PRs if we want to look at the PRs themselves, because we have six of them in total. And some of them we do need to uh, merge, I think. Like, for instance, the number 80, Caspar Peterson auth. That one is interesting. It changes the schema a little bit. but we're also changing the schema with RFCs, which we were going to talk. I'm going to talk about in a second, but that might need to be remedied along with some of these other ones. There's the resolving build errors and everything. I want to double check because there's some other ones that also fix some similar things that are overlapping. So I want to go through all that at some point, but we do want to get over our goal for the early part of this year is to get the V2 release going, and that's right now we have two RFCs that me and Nick are making. The info endpoint and the config options. We talked about that at the last meeting, and that's making some progress. We're done with the info endpoint, I'm pretty sure, and we're working on the config options. And then attached to that, or coming right after it, is the authentication aspect from Sidekick or Caspar Peterson, and we do need to get RFC written, update the documentation around that authentication, and separate that PR. That was one of the things with that PR2 is that they had all the style changes that it's just too much for one PR scope wise, I think. Especially since there's another one that covers that. So but Caspar is not here at the moment, so we'll probably talk about that later. Yeah.
I'm seeing that you assigned yourself from you took the PR over from Caspar, so I'm just putting Caspar's
Did I?
name in the assignees as well. Yeah. So it looks like you self-assigned the PR on November 28th, according
Oh.
to the history.
Yeah, fair.
So
And that's a binding contract.
It is a binding contract, yeah. I clicked a button at some point.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I added him. I added him back so that right now it's both you and Caspar.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll probably make a comment on that.
All right, and then Wilson, do you mind staying a bit after the call? We can get your pull request resolved as well.
Sounds good.
All right. Zane and you and Nick's PR, I'll just kind of defer to you two to kind of resolve for the config option, and yeah, and then we can get the Caspar. I'm reaching out to them in Discord, and then I also made a comment on the PR saying exactly what needs to get done. So hopefully they'll respond soon. But we'll check in again next week to see if there's any update. And go from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Next, mine continuing for the second point.
Well, that was it for the version 2, the info endpoint, the config options, and the authentication. I guess the only other thing is that fourth thing there. So collaborating with me and Nick, since we've been making the RFCs, I think is good on that one. And I just listed sort of the dependency for the authentication, which is we got to have the info endpoint and the config options RFCs already implemented before we add the authentication. So I think it makes sense to put it in the same area since that's where everything else is going to go. So I want to get in touch with Caspar to go over that, and we will. Awesome. But moving on from that.
Yeah, so by the end of February, we are going to join Linux Foundation. I know that this goalpost seems to keep moving. It was late last year, it was kind of like hard to track them down. So I have a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow to discuss what that looks like. And so hopefully we'll get the ball rolling. And for people who are in the founding members chat, we are going to have a biweekly sync from now and forward to go over like some of the foundation level changes. And for people who are in the audience today, if you're interested, let me know. So background info is AI Engineer Foundation is joining the Linux Foundation. And so together we will hopefully make it so that it's adopted by more company and more projects under us. And so that's going to happen soon. Zane, want to talk about V2?
Congrats.
Oh, thanks.
The V2 concept. I'm pretty sure everything that we have here is able to be completed and released by the end of March. It's for the most part relatively straightforward changes on the spec, and the only thing that would take up 2 or 3 months of time is just updating the client and SDKs. It should be very achievable to get this
Got it.
released by March, and that's the goal here. But if I'm wrong, let me know.
I think so. Like we have most of the things ready already, so just it's a matter of like merging things in.
Yep.
Yeah, that said, it seems like a great opportunity for me personally to join on those calls. Is it okay if I don't like talk much and I kind of just follow along the first few times to get, acquainted and
Yeah.
not bothersome? If that's
When you
cool,
say
yeah,
those
just like
calls,
including me. I think like bi-weekly, that's a lot of calls, but if you're saying interesting stuff,
biweekly, I mean once every 2 weeks,
oh yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
like
Okay.
once a week.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. And congrats again on Linux Fan. That's huge.
Yeah.
The
I'm just taking
exposure
notes. Thank
alone,
you.
and I think it makes it quite legit. Let's see what they say, what shape it takes, and good luck with that. It's not, nothing comes easy, and that's a pretty big one. So I can imagine it
So
would be.
the
So,
background is that we've been chatting with them for a while, and then Sean and I went to the Linux Member Summit in October last year, and so over there we met with like some of the senior leadership, and they are very very interested. And under Linux, they themselves have a Linux Foundation AI and Data branch, and that's led by this person whose name is Ibrahim. And in that branch, we've kind of browsed through some of the topics discussed there. It's mostly related to ML ops. The PyTorch Foundation is also under that as well. And so our focus is more in engineering, in tooling. So there's a slight difference. And we are going to go forward and see where we actually fit. Do we fit in the broader Linux area, or do we fit in the Linux AI and data area? And so that's a little bit undecided, and we don't need to decide right until the operations keep moving forward. But what I'm excited about this is we'll get a lot more members who are interested. Members being not individual peoples, but companies who are going to kind of like donate their resources to us, and then have us house more projects.
yeah, absolutely wild. I love it.
Awesome. So okay, so I believe Wayne have something that you wanted to discuss. Um,
Well, I mean, we've had some conversations together. I don't think necessarily all of them are valuable necessarily as decisions, right? But maybe food for thought. Okay.
mhm.
So I'm just going to repeat very naively what I told Sasha. Okay. You tell me what you think. I think it's good to speak truth. Huh? The protocol is not really used much. So, but the goal of the foundation really is not to. It's not this protocol. This protocol is a tool to achieve the mission, which, right? I don't have the exact mission. I don't remember the exact one word for word, but the idea is to solve the following problem. I'm an AI engineer. I work in a company on a side project. I build X. I'm another AI engineer on another company. I build the same X, almost. waste of time, waste of effort, society wasting money on hiring 2 people for the same thing. They could still hire them, but make them do useful things. Okay, so let's improve that, right? That's the goal. And the idea of the agent protocol, what is it really, right? I mean, what excites me about it is, as I can build one client and I can consume any AI agent. It's pretty cool, right? With one very lean, clean interface. And the interface of agents is a beautiful one, right? It's really literally what makes the agentic feel interesting. It's something that does actions, but using NLP. That's beautiful. Like there's nothing more, there's no better interface in my opinion than at least at the API level, right? Because humans love clicking buttons, but these buttons are linked to APIs, right? So at the API level, it's beautiful to have these texts that you can send and having an agent doing something. So really that's the core, but we still don't face the problem of having many agents to consume from, right? So the problem that the agent protocol solves is actually not a problem that appears right now. But that's very good that we started it, because we're the first. So we can help standardize this. But at the same time, the market is saying you don't solve a pain. And so you don't solve an acute pain. So one way to fix that problem is to create the problem. And by that, I mean, having more agents in the space, having more open source agents to consume from, right? So no real action item here, but it's just food for thought. Huh? I think it's important to not be stuck, to not be a solution in search of a problem, if you see what I mean. Like it's a common YC thing, Y Combinator thing that they say. Don't be a solution in search for a problem, right? Meaning the agent protocol should not be a solution in search for a problem. It should be just a solution for a problem that the foundation defined. And we already defined it, right? So that's it.
So
Well, that's one
I
heck of
have
a
some
morale
quick thoughts.
booster.
I think I think so. So here's my take. I understand now that beyond AutoGPT and like several other companies, it's not like agent protocol is not like a big thing. It's not like OpenAI. It's not like a LangChain. But I think what going forward, if we keep up the development pace, we can convince companies like LangChain, companies like Llama Index to use it. And I, so personally, so this is something that I shared with Zane, but I will share broadly as well, which is I'm doing some contracting work with Llama Index, and they are very interested in this general concept of kind of like not duplicating efforts. It's just in the bones of every software engineer. They want to reuse things that already exist that are open source, right? So like they don't want to do something that's like completely one-off, verticalization and no compatibility to use to be pluggable, modularity, all of that. Like people want to do modular work that's like very easy to reference rather than kind of like incompatible with the rest of the system. So this is what standardization offers. And but the problem here right now, which I will point out, is that the space is moving so fast, and both Llama Index and LangChain right now, I feel like they have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders, in which they want to like kind of get as many developers onto their platform to kind of like being able to monetize. From my perspective, like I can understand that like every startup faces the problem of like they want to make money, right? And so so I think like right now we're kind of like each of the companies are kind of like the early stage of Apple, right? Like they're closing down the system so that they could be kind of like more developers for them means less developers for the competitor. And once the the ecosystem matures, they're going to realize, oh, wait a second, actually there's a standardization here. They don't need to create this separate thing that's unnecessary. And they're going to realize that some of the work that they've done is unnecessary, and just for the goal of like collecting customers. So here's my hypothesis is that going forward, when agent protocol becomes more mature, when we develop more features, right now one of the another thing that we were thinking a lot about is the long running task for a step, right? Like the step right now is just like you create a step and then somehow the step is like executed, done for you. But like there are some like future agents that each of the step could be asynchronous. So how do we get that callback? It's maybe through the form of webhook. Maybe we need to define that a bit. Make the agent protocol more generalized to work for any agents. That will be like a really good thing for the ecosystem as a whole. And then these companies are going to realize, oh, wait a second, there is already a standardization. Like Jerry from Llama Index, he looked at our agent protocol and he kind of built the way that Llama Index has done agent is inspired by agent protocol. Like they actually went back and changed their React implementation to be broken down into steps and tasks as well. And so they're gonna realize, they're gonna feel inspired by like what we're doing, like the concepts, and I like a little bit of a struggle is that we're a community led effort. We don't have salaries and that we're doling off to our engineers, but this is something that I think like I believe in, which is like we all are developers and we all work for this ecosystem, and this is something I'm willing to bet on, is that like we are like a better ecosystem is a better dev experience for all of us, and we are working on this to make the ecosystem better. And it's okay that we're not like we can't move as fast, but we need to me, like slowly is the fastest way to do this. It's like we need to be very very careful about how we define the concepts and construct in such a way that it makes sense for any generalized agent, so that we can inspire companies like Llama Index and LangChain to use us. I think right now, like in terms of dev tooling, like these two companies are probably the two biggest ones that developers are using. There may be more, like AutoGen, Gen for agents, Super Agent, etc. But again, like we're not competing with them. They can use us. Like they can literally just adopt agent protocol in their communication schema. So that's how I think about it. But anybody feel free to jump in.
Hey, I kind of do want to rebound on that last part about the generalizability of the agent protocol. So, I mean, I guess I'm an early user-ish because I used it during Wayne's hackathon. But I had a problem with the connector to the agentic framework that we were using. And I would venture to suggest that more connectors would fare better than more features. Because we were so happy when we found it, because we thought, hey, we're already compatible, but we were not. So I think like that's actually where it would be the most useful, right? Like getting these various frameworks to work together, because that's the value proposition that's written down, right? Although it works a lot better when it already works. So to make it more generalizable, yeah, connectors, things like connectors to AutoGen, connectors to semantic kernel. There's a new one from Microsoft. That's another connector probably, or maybe the same one, who knows. There's other agentic frameworks probably with the same problem, right? And then suddenly you get these ecosystems that are so-called in competition, but they can communicate, and that gives life to everything, right? Um, maybe even things like Multion, things like super AGI deployments. Probably that's already compatible though. But yeah, connectors to all that, because then you can make them fight, you can make them cooperate, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. If anyone is interested, so I believe so the people who are working on AutoGen added a roadmap tag when I created an issue on an AutoGen repository, and they added a roadmap. So I don't know what that means. They may never get to it, so we're relying on community efforts to like help build it. So if anyone is interested in doing any of the connector SDKs, please let us know.
It is
I
a lot
know,
of work though. It is a lot of work.
yeah.
Yeah, but the good news is AutoGen's not the only one, right? There'll be like things like what I said, Multion has this API. You know, there'll be like things that, you know, people are producing their own agentic frameworks quite a lot. Yeah, I think it's good. You know, like it really depends on even getting folks like them, like what you hope Microsoft to do. But on the smaller projects, probably you'll get more response because there'll be less Microsoft involved. It's not that good, AutoGen, but you know, people use it. I use it, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And it's missing that connector. So, but I tried it. It's hard. It's hard. I'm not like capable enough. I think, or I'm quite sure. But it's nothing that a few months of hard work can't solve. You know.
yeah, I think like, I mean, another, hopefully like with the help of Linux Foundation as well, we'll get some like, um, funds to be able to like fund some of the projects here and there, as well. And so, um,
I
right
mean, like,
now,
AutoGPT, is it compatible out of the box with it? Yeah, you know, like, because
yes,
folks are
I
using
think
these,
so.
right?
Yeah, I think
There's
they
other
are.
ones, like maybe even making a list and just reaching out to folks. Like, you'd be surprised how far you can get with a verified Twitter and a cold email, especially you guys, you know, like wishful search, you know.
You
Have
know
you
what we
heard
could
seen?
do as a
Yeah.
concept? We could create a singular sort of call to action issue on the repository, and we could reference that issue in the other GitHub repositories for those other projects. That way, it all gets sort of linked back into one place that we can centrally see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that also sounds helpful to folks that want to be like, what are you talking about? And then they can see this discussion with other people that were, you know, getting their questions answered.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds like a great idea. Um, yeah,
Yeah, because then
Uh,
I can also like take that link, right? And then just be like, hey, Asian Protocol, check it
yeah.
out at least.
And
You
the way
know?
GitHub does its issue linking, that issue will always be tied backwards, you know. So if there's ever anybody else looking for it,
Oh,
then
I see. So that will also do the attribution and you can make branches. Nice.
yeah,
Okay.
keep it
Sorry,
all connected.
I'm still I was not using GitHub. I mean, I stopped using GitHub when Microsoft bought it, and that was a while back. So I'm still getting into it.
Fair.
what is wishful search?
Wishful Search is a really cool one. Basically, it's an agentic framework that mixes a lot of agentic and non-agentic, which is a good way to do it. And he's a great guy. He's on Twitter. He's just like a great guy. Yeah, top guy, good
Mm,
researcher. And he's kind of like launching his thing, but I think he made it open source very early on. He was like, "Oh, damn it!" Before
mm,
using it, and then you know, it's actually good. So it's good at like really simple things like airplane bookings and like web search and or well, I'll send y'all links before I vandalize your GitHub. Promise.
Also like once they makes the issue on our page, maybe we can utilize everyone's help to kind of like broadcast it more to your community. That way we can also get more eyes on it as well. That would be also really helpful.
Yeah, crowdsourcing, the community's right there. So yeah. I mean, for me, my personal issue is those connectors with those libraries I use. But
Fair.
whatever works to make that happen, I'll put some energy, into it.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's one of those things I tried. It's like so long ago, and it keeps me up at night. Like, gosh, like, how have I not solved this yet?
I can see that. Yeah, totally can see that. So thank you for mentioning it. Great. So that's it on the agenda. Wayne, do you have anything else, or like how you?
No, no. Well, I'm building a company with Selena. I don't have much time, but I'll see if I can help you to find more people for
Yeah, that would be great.
contribution. Um,
Thank you.
because I think I've never really seen. Someone mentioned cold emails. I've never really seen an outreach from the founder of a foundation, the leader of a foundation, to just ask for people to contribute. So that would be pretty original.
Yeah.
No, come
But
on, it happens. No, how do you do anything? You have to ask for it. No, like,
yeah,
hey,
but
what's
like
up?
I've,
I like your
I've never
repo. Can you contribute?
I've
Make
never
a
really
PR.
I've never really seen that from the leader of a nonprofit. I've seen that from like companies that want to hire, like someone that would say, "Hey, work on my open source project," or it's kind of it's interesting. So that
Well, you
makes it
have to,
interesting.
because the thing we're proposing is in that space. I think it makes sense to do as well, because that's what
For
those
connector,
companies would
that's
do,
how
right?
every branch starts. Like, so if you check like AutoGen, that's the one I made an issue for. It's like, hey, Mistral API just like made their API. Let's make a connector. And you're like, hey, agent protocol, like this is how agents communicate in the environments that are compatible. Like, make a connector. Because the founders, like, I've done that with Pinocchio.computer. Have you heard of this guy, Pinocchio.computer from Cocktail Peanut? Yeah, it's a great piece of software. PINOKIO dot computer. That's the URL. And basically, I made a connector for Super AGI, so that was compatible for about 2 weeks until the release. But I also contacted the founders of Flowise, and I was like, guys, you should make a connector. And I also contacted their direct competitor, Logspace. And I was like, hey, you should make a connector. And then they were like, oh, this is actually cool. And they made a connector. And then Flowise is like, we don't have time. You make a connector. And I was like, well, Logspace made one. So like 2 hours later, they had one. And, because it's your business, right? Like you have to connect to the platforms that the users, or in this case, builders, are using. So like when I'm thinking with Multion, I'll definitely send you links to, Multion, that company. Well, their founders always like making side projects on GitHub. And one of his side projects is this like multi-agent swarm thing, and that would be a great connector to have to the agent protocol, because then you can make your LangChain ones talk to your Multion ones, and then that's like more audience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll talk to Div about it. I have
Oh,
a
I see
meeting
no
with him
div.
on
That's like
Saturday.
wild, right? Like I love his side project.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like his latest one is like fantastic. Really, you see people losing their minds. He's always retweeting people who lose their minds when they like make like agents and stuff. It's cool.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Tonic, for all the feedback and ideas.
Yeah, I'm like really happy that yeah, you can contact Div because that seems like a really straightforward contact and connector to make. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna, unless anyone has anything else, I will stop the recording. Last chance, anyone?
Good to go.
I'm stopping the recording.
Alrighty. Goodbye, everybody.